Have you ever checked the clock only to realize hours or even days have vanished without a trace? Imagine driving down a familiar road or taking a walk in your neighborhood, only to find yourself somewhere unrecognizable with no memory of how you got there. These are not just the stuff of sci-fi movies. In this story, we'll dive into 4 chilling cases of people who experienced missing time, events so strange they have puzzled investigators for years. What happened to them during those lost hours? Were they pulled into another dimension? Or is there a more sinister explanation? Welcome to Echoes in the Dark. Emma and her husband, Martin, were returning from a weekend trip in the French countryside in 2008. Feeling hungry, they decided to stop at a quaint, old-fashioned cafe they spotted along the road. Inside, everything seemed frozen in the 1950s. The decor, the uniforms, even the menu. They had a delicious meal and left feeling refreshed. But when they mentioned the cafe to locals the next day, they were met with blank stares. Curious, they drove back to find it, only to discover nothing but an overgrown lot. The locals insisted no cafe had existed there in decades. What's more unsettling, Emma and Martin both noticed their watches had stopped working while at the cafe. They lost nearly 2 hours of time they couldn't account for. Was this a slip into a past version of reality, or something else entirely? Emma later remembered a peculiar moment during their visit to the cafe. As she glanced around, she noticed the other patrons were eerily quiet, almost robotic in their movements. No one made eye contact, and the clinking of silverware was the only sound that broke the silence. The waitress who served them never smiled, and her eyes seemed unnaturally dark. When Emma examined the photos they had taken during their trip, she was shocked to find that every image of the cafe was missing. The files appeared corrupted, showing only a blank gray screen. A local historian they spoke to later mentioned a tragic fire that had destroyed a cafe in the same area in the 1950s, killing everyone inside. Could Emma and Martin have dined at a ghostly remnant of the past? In 1992, Peter Carlson, a truck driver based in Arizona, was on a routine delivery through the barren roads of the Mojave Desert. Around midnight, Peter saw a strange blue light hovering in the distance. He described it as shimmering, like heat waves on asphalt. As he approached, his truck radio crackled and died. The next thing Peter remembered, it was 3:15 a.m. Over 3 hours had passed, and he was parked on the side of the road. His truck was facing the opposite direction from where he had been driving. Confused, Peter tried to recall what had happened, but his memory was blank. Later, Peter discovered a faint burn mark on his forearm in the shape of a triangle. When he shared his story, some theorized he had been abducted by extraterrestrials, but others believe he may have passed through a dimensional rift, causing time to bend around him. Peter's truck log revealed something even more unsettling. The mileage didn't match the distance he should have traveled. It showed an additional 120 miles that Peter could not account for. When he returned to the location later in the daylight, he noticed the sand on the side of the road was scorched, leaving a perfect circular pattern that had not been there before. Local authorities dismissed his claims, but Peter remained haunted by the encounter. Years later, Peter began experiencing vivid dreams of the blue light. In these dreams, he recalled seeing shadowy figures standing just beyond the glow, as if observing him. He could never see their faces, but he often woke up drenched in sweat, feeling as if someone or something was watching him. In 2015, Sarah Bennett, an avid runner from New York City, went for her usual jog in Central Park. It was a sunny afternoon, and the trails were crowded with tourists and locals. About halfway through her route, Sarah noticed the park suddenly emptying. The usual sounds of chatter and bird song were replaced by eerie silence. She checked her phone. It was dead, though fully charged earlier. The next thing she remembered was waking up on a park bench as twilight descended. Her fitness tracker recorded no steps for the past 2 hours. Panicked, Sarah rushed home to find her roommate worried sick. Sarah had been gone for 5 hours, not 2. Sarah later recalled a bizarre encounter during her jog. She had passed a man dressed in a black suit and fedora, standing completely still under a tree. His face was expressionless, and his eyes followed her as she ran past. Despite the warm weather, he appeared unaffected by the heat. Weeks after the incident, Sarah began experiencing vivid flashbacks. In these fragmented memories, she saw herself standing in an endless white void, surrounded by faint whispers. The voices seemed to call her name, but she could never turn to see who or what was speaking. These haunting memories left Sarah questioning whether she had stepped into another realm. David, a security guard in a small office building in Seattle, clocked in for his usual graveyard shift in December 2019. At 2 a.m., he began his rounds, checking the locks on the building's upper floors. David recalled stepping into the elevator but couldn't remember getting out. When he came to, he was standing on the roof with no recollection of how he got there. His watch showed 4 a.m., but the clock on the roof read 7 a.m. His supervisor later reviewed the security footage. David was seen walking into the elevator but never came out. For the next 3 hours, the cameras showed static. David insists he never left the building and still struggles to explain what happened. What David hadn't shared was the strange encounter he experienced just before entering the elevator. He had seen a shadowy figure in the stairwell, motionless and staring directly at him. The figure vanished the moment David blinked, leaving him questioning whether it had been real. The days following the incident were marked by eerie occurrences. David found post-it notes in his locker with messages he didn't write, like, "Don't look back," and "Time is fragile." Though his colleagues brushed it off as a prank, David couldn't shake the feeling that he had been targeted by something beyond human understanding. Each of these cases is unique, yet they share one chilling similarity: missing time. The affected individuals were left with unanswered questions and a sense of unease that haunted them long after the events occurred. Were these episodes caused by natural phenomena, like magnetic anomalies or temporal shifts? Or did these individuals stumble into something far stranger, perhaps a glitch in the fabric of reality itself? What do you think? Could there be a scientific explanation for these occurrences, or are they evidence of parallel dimensions, extraterrestrial activity, or even spiritual encounters? Share your thoughts in the comments below. And if you've ever experienced missing time or know someone who has, let us know. Your story could be the next one we feature. Don't forget to like this video, subscribe for more tales of the unexplained, and hit the bell icon so you never miss an update. Thank you for watching, and stay curious.